Alright guys, time for part 3 of the Busan Pocket campaign in Wargame Red Dragon. We just kicked the North Koreans out of Yeongdeok and Uichang, and now we're going to see what happens next. Okay, the North Koreans are back in force. They're going after the urban map of Daegu again. We still have the 4 zones here. We still have a lot of infantry. But this time they're coming with a bit more force at us. We already wiped out a good number of their infantry, which means that their amount of line infantry has really been decimated. The thing we need to worry about now are these engineers with the napalm rounds. These are really going to be a problem for our infantry, but the good thing is that these only have a 350 meter range, so they need to be very close before they're going to be effective. It's my job to keep them at bay and make sure they don't touch the infantry. These guys now also have rocket artillery in the form of BM-21s. They still bring a couple of the Shilkas, and they still only got 1 mortar carrier left due to the airstrike I did on them last time. Furthermore, they now bring T-55 napalm tanks, so combine these with the Gyeongdeok engineers and we're really going to have a fire party out here today. They bring F5 napalm planes, and finally they have the ZSU 57-2 anti-air unit with a very low range of only 1500 meters. On the other side we have a whole lot of infantry, good recoilless rifles, we got line infantry and we got engineers. We have some support in the form of artillery units, we have Recon and we have some napalm vehicles. What I'm really missing this time is the air support, and that is going to show up in the battle. My plan right now is to hold Uichang here, hold Yeongdeok, and push a little bit into the middle of the sector here. But it's going to be difficult to hold this with all the T-55s and the Gyeongdeok engineers which are going to man at us. So here we go. Alright, command vehicles first. I want to capture Yeongdeok. I'm going to leave the road to Busan open because that's not going to give me any points. I want the zone in Bravo, but it's going to be very difficult to hold with all these engineering vehicles coming at us. So probably the safest thing is going to be to hold this area here and hold this area here. This way they are going to cut us in two, I do realize that. But the area here is very difficult to hold against all of these napalm units, while here I have a lot more range with my recoilless rifles, and the same goes for this area if I can capture this town and secure it with recoilless rifles. So it's a little counterintuitive, but I'm going to leave Bravo open for now. I'm going to park as many recoilless rifles in here as I can for a lot of firepower. And I'm going to do the same thing here, but I want them to be in this sector and there. So I'm going to make it 2 squads of 2 units. They still have the anti-air unit or the F5 bombers, so this group gets a Stinger unit with them. And further we're going to back this up with a couple of these guys with the 875 meter anti-tank weapon. I'm going with groups of 4 for this sector, so that I have 2 groups of 4 to protect the size of those buildings. The same thing is going to happen on this side, except that these don't really have the range to do much other than defend this bridge. So I want to put 2 squads in here, and I want to prepare a push on this side. So I'm going with a couple of the Ibiguns. I don't really mind losing those. And I want to try to flank on the side here and capture this zone or find the command vehicle. For this I'm going with the Suzak Day Recon unit. I want a couple of, well, the vehicle doesn't really matter. I'm going to bring a couple of these guys. They're only 5 apiece with a 5-point vehicle. A 10-point vehicle, so it's not really expensive to lose a couple of these guys. What I'm also doing is going with a couple of Gyeongdeoks myself, and this way I can make sure that anything that crosses into this sector is going to get stunned or worse by the napalm. The range on these napalm units is 525, which is not very good. So make sure that if you use these things, you use them from or inside the town. I could put them outside on the outskirts of this forest, but it's not going to really do much because they only have a range of 500, which is about to here. And by that time, the tank or the other vehicle from the other side will already be in range. So these guys aren't coming. What I can, however, do is bring a couple of K136, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to put these here. The reason for this is that they have a good range, and they have a minimum range, which means that they can only fire at a certain range. If I were to put them here in Bravo, they wouldn't be able to fire at their capture zone, because they'd be too close. From here on out, I can fire at them, and then relocate back to this sector. This is going to be quite a tricky and intense battle, and I hope to get away with it with a major victory. So here we go. These guys are going north, and all of these guys are going here, except for a small detachment of recoilless rifles, which are going up north. Now, when you're playing a campaign, make sure that you realize that the moment you lose a unit, and you lose either the unit or the transport, you have lost the entire unit. By this I mean that if I lose a recoilless rifle, the vehicle also gets destroyed. If I lose the vehicle, the recoilless rifle also gets destroyed for the next match. This is pretty dangerous, so make sure that you keep this in mind and that you don't lose units this way. Right here they think it's a wise idea to push with a command vehicle. I tend to disagree. I'm going to send these guys out here and try to push into this town, move up on the sides, and make sure I get the command vehicle so they cannot call in any resupplies. I'm going to have to keep flushing infantry into these zones because without them the battle will be quickly over. Now I have some eyes on this town, so before my units arrive I first want to make sure that whatever's in there is stunned by my rocket artillery. Pull my vehicles back a little bit more. Send in some Yebigun militia units to resupply and reinforce this town. And you can see here that the T-55 napalm tanks are right in the middle. They've now captured Bravo, but I'm not too worried about that. And here comes the rocket spread for my K136s. I can now start to move up with these vehicles because by the time they get there, the missiles will all have landed. Okay, these are napalm bombers, so we gotta get these out pretty quickly. There's not gonna be anything left of these guys. Okay, unload the Yebiguns in this sector. Make sure we capture this town as fast as possible and keep the Recon units at bay to make sure that these guys survive, because they're a lot more expensive and valuable than the Yebigun infantry units I have out here. And as you can see from my rocket strike earlier, all of these units are panicked, damaged, or in a state of worry. My front line here is starting to collapse a little bit, and that's because they're running out of law missiles. So I'm going to have to put in some new guys here, here, and on this side with more Yebiguns. We need these Yebiguns to take on these Bongzios. These are the line infantry from the North Koreans. And with these things out of the way, we should be a little safer. There's artillery here, but I cannot do a lot about that, unfortunately. But as you see, the battle is not going that bad because we already have them at only 400 points left. So the moment I can push into this town, I should be able to take the zone, or at least find the command vehicle. Here's another command vehicle rolling up. And we have found their command vehicle here in the middle. So I'm going to put an attack marker on that so I can find it again later. Not likely to push out to it, but you never know what kind of opportunities may present themselves. They only got 325 points left now. They recaptured Uichang, so their CV is somewhere in these woods or on these outskirts here. Now these guys are starting to napalm their own town, which means that the computer is starting to get worried that my Yebigoons are pushing up too far here. Now the trick here is to keep moving infantry about, make sure that the napalm tanks don't get a really good line of fire at them. Because if they do, then I have 40 guys here which are about to get barbecued, and I can't have that. They're destroying vehicles, the Yebigoons are destroying some ZSUs here. And unfortunately we cannot really touch this guy at the moment, so this is when I'm really starting to notice the lack of air support I have in this battle. We found the last mortar battery, which is up here. Here's some more napalm coming in. Now, they have captured Bravo. But since this game is not going to end in a draw, that means that the enemy is going to get flushed out again. And they're going to be flushed out into a sector which is uncapturable by us. Which means that the next time they come and visit us here, they're going to be at a disadvantage because they will only start from this sector again. Now, I finally found their CV. Unfortunately, these Yebigoons can't really shoot straight. They finally got it. And now I've won the battle with a total victory. Now, the stats here are a little deceiving because the last time I already lost a CV, so it's still going to say -1 because the battle group has taken the loss, not you in this not in this particular match. I lost a couple of Yebigoons in my attack in the north. I already lost a couple of these line infantry. I lost a Stinger unit, a couple of recoilless rifles and some engineers. Otherwise, I didn't lose too much. On the other hand, we have the computer which took a really bad hit. They lost their Strelas, they lost their Fagots, which means that they have little anti-tank capability. They got 3 line infantry left and 20 infantry engineer squads with the flamethrower. They only have 7 support vehicles left, which means I destroyed 4 of their BM-21 rocket artillery launchers. I destroyed 2 Shilkas. I took out all of the ZSU-57-2s and I destroyed a couple of the T-55s. So this is a very good result, and the Chinese or the North Koreans won't be coming back. Now, this is good news because now the Americans have arrived. They've arrived here in the left sector in Naval Sector Charlie, and I'm going to push them up towards Seoul as soon as possible. They come with the aircraft carrier Nimitz. You don't really get a lot of advantage from this because it's just a placeholder unit and it's a mobile airfield. What you do get are 2 groups of Marines. You get a Marine regiment and an armored battalion. And together we're going to push on Seoul here. So I move these units into the sector. I use my light attack squadron with 14 helicopters to support the landing. and I can now call in infantry or units from the Naval Task Force, which consists of another Marine Regiment or armored battalions. Keep in mind that you cannot call in all of these right away, because the armored battalion can only be called in when there's a harbor. So I first need to capture the Sale harbor before I can bring in the armored battalion or the 25th Armored Battalion. Now, first I want to wrap up these other attacks. And what we have here is the open desert map. This is where we did the attack with the F4ES last time. This time we're up against the same force, it's the same tank regiment with only one command vehicle left. They still have the Su-25Ks to support, and they got the Tokchong 130mm artillery. On the other hand, we still have the tanks. We're going to send the F4ES planes over again. We got the attack helicopters here, and because I want to protect my air or my ground units against the Su-25Ks, I'm going to send in the F-15Cs. Sorry, F-16Cs, different version. So, I don't need any other planes in this sector. I can use these planes back here. So, let's have a battle in Yeongdeok. Now, always make sure you check what you're going to be up against. We already know, because I just checked in the global map. Artillery units, a bit of tanks, some recon, and again, no anti-air. This means that this battle is going to be pretty much the same as we did last time, in the sense that we're going to be scouting it out, making sure that all our planes have targets, and that we can keep bombarding these units. As you can see, my planes have now gotten some veterancy. I have 2 hardened units and a couple of veterans and even one elite. Let's see if we can upgrade those guys a bit more this time. I'm going to delete one plane so I can deploy another command squad here. And this way I can be sure that I get a lot more resupply zones or a lot more resupply points, and I get another zone which I can call in aircraft from. Unload these guys, send these scout units up again here, unload the chopper, use my Fiat 6616 to scout here. Make sure that if you unload infantry squads you also put them in bushes, because they're still exposed. And if you're doing this in a multiplayer match, you could even move the UH-1H to somewhere else, because this is still a dead giveaway to human players that my CV is over here. Okay, the first targets are up and they're being refueled, which means that they have fuel cars or resupply vehicles nearby. This is interesting because it means that they have some resupply vehicles here and they can cause a nice explosion for us, or that they have some sort of FOB here. My Fiat is now spotting units, and this F4 is unfortunately not really in the right range to do it. I'm probably going to lose this Recon unit to this Su-25K, because I doubt he's going to be able to dodge these bombs. Yep, there he goes. So that wasn't the best plan. I'm going to deploy some more recon because we lost the only recon we had on that flank. Call my planes back. I could use these UH-1H to scout, but if I lose them, which is unlikely, that means that I'm going to lose the command infantry as well, so I'm not going to risk this. What I can do is send my planes out to this area where I've spotted about 20 tanks. And we even have some tanks here in the middle. We might actually see some tank-on-tank action here, because the moment these guys, as in these tanks, clear this region, they're going to be taking fire from these K1s. Time to call in another F4ES. My tanks will take care of these vehicles, so I'm going to send these guys after the Tokchongs, which are a lot more valuable than those 25-point tanks. Now this is bad news, because this means that my Recon squad is almost going to be spotted by these Chanma Hos. So I'm going to send my planes particularly after these units to make sure that they are unfortunately destroyed anyway. Okay, this battle is not going as well as last time. Unfortunately, on the left side here there's very little cover for my infantry to get into. These dense hedges might conceal them a little bit, and I hope to be able to spot some tanks from here on out. Meanwhile, these K1s have not taken any damage. They fired a couple of shots, and this way they've taken out a couple of tanks. There's a Chanma Ho which sneaked by here. And we'll put a stop to that. Now, normally I try to capture supply vehicles such as these, but in this case I'm not going after them because they're completely out of my reach. And if you destroy a resupply vehicle, it usually makes a nice explosion which damages or panics units nearby. Unfortunately, every time we spot these guys, they tend to disappear. Okay, this is bad news. They found our units and they're about to open fire on them. Which means that probably an Su-25K is going to be paying us a visit soon. Which means that I should get my air defense up to par. So I'm going to have one of these F-16Cs ready. I'm going to have a circle over my lines to discourage any attack using Su-25Ks. And here you can see artillery starting to pound these K1s. The area where they're coming from is here. Unfortunately, we cannot do much about this other than relocate our tanks. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to push up to these woods. Because right now all they're doing is not actually pounding them, but creating a smoke screen. See, this K1 took 2 hits from these Chanmas, but they only took 1 bar of damage. And here is the Su-25K I was expecting. My F-16 is going after it and scored 140 point kill. So this is really how you look ahead, how you plan ahead, and how you see what you can expect and how to counter it. Now T-63s are worth 25 points, which is exactly the amount of points I need. And there's a couple of Chanma Hos coming up from the right side. And we've won the battle. Now this time we lost 2 recon units, but we destroyed the tank regiment, which means that all of these tanks are not going to be coming back. We still have the Su-25Ks to deal with, some T-63s and the artillery units. But otherwise, I'm not too worried about this battle group anymore. Okay, we still have Uichang to deal with. Uichang is the open map with the greener fields. And what we're up against here is a bit different from last time. We still got the tanks, but this time they also bring an infantry battalion, which we encountered earlier where we destroyed the command vehicle. And they got an anti-tank convoy, which means that our tanks can no longer reign as freely as they usually have. Now these things aren't exactly top notch. They're very poor accuracy, low AP power, but these things have a good range, decent AP power, and they're only 30 apiece. They got 20 of these. So this time we're going to be using the attack helicopter convoy I have here, because they don't have many command vehicles. Actually, they don't have any command vehicles, so this battle is not going to take place because the AI cannot field anything. Just watch. For certainty, I'm going to send over these units here, and if I click the battle, you're going to see that these battle groups don't have any logistics. So when I click launch battle, they're just going to retreat back to the west. This means that these things didn't actually do battle, which means I can put them on R&R and get some cohesion, so that the next time they go to war, they're going to have a little more points for deployment. Same thing in the north, because no battle has taken place in Daegu. So I can put these guys on R&R. Now one thing we have to keep in mind is that there's a heavy aviation regiment coming in, with 4 Mi-25s and a whole lot of air deployment troopers. Moreover, elite paratroopers from carrying by Mi-8s. So the next time we're going to be doing this battle, we need to be very sure that we have plenty AA. And right now I don't have any AA, I have 3 Stingers. And furthermore, some vehicles which can fire in the air at 875 meters. That's not going to be a match for any Mi-25. So what I could do is try to resupply these guys with some more land forces in the form of an anti-air convoy for 10 points. But I really don't want to do that. I want to save up so that I can deploy the 72nd Armor Battalion into Seoul when that landing happens. Okay, this video has gone on long enough, so I'm going to pause it here. And next video we're going to do the actual landing in Seoul with the Marines. Let the fireworks begin in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them below. If you have any ideas on how to improve the campaign, I'd love to hear it. And if you like the video, please click like in the top screen. Thanks for watching.